Yo, what's going on YouTube? I'm Sue, and if you're a regular here, you already know over the past month or so, I've been hopelessly addicted to Super Creative's Chaos Zero Nightmare. This is the team behind Epic 7, the primary game that I cover here on my channel, and if you played that game, you already know what you're in for. Amazing 2D visuals, crazy animations, and very robust, rewarding, and deep gameplay. And if you want to check the game out for yourself, you can do so by using my link down in the video's description to help support your boy. That said, just like with Epic 7, the game might be a little bit too deep, and when I talk to some of my regulars as well as people on streams, they might feel frustrated or lost on what to actually do with the game. So I figured I'd kind of impart to you 5 tips that I've learned over the past month or so to kind of help you out in case you're struggling in Chaos Zero Nightmare. My first tip is actually on the potential system. I find that when I talk to players that they take far too few potentials or they take far too many of them, and so I felt it was important to really explain how the system works. In case you don't know, potentials are guaranteed upgrades for your characters, meaning that you should prioritize them first if at all possible, because memory fragments, which we'll talk about a little bit later, those are random. They are not guaranteed bonuses. These are guaranteed bonuses, guaranteed power spikes, which will make the game significantly easier for you. Now, almost every character in the game has a very similar structure for how their potentials work. This bottom left node is always the Epiphany bonus. It's the same for every single character, and you can't unlock any of the other nodes until you do, so it's basically your starting point. Everyone needs to take it. After that, you come to these 3 bonuses in the vertical column. You have the basic card bonuses. This increases your damage, shields, and healing for basic cards. If you don't know which cards are the basic cards, it's going to be the first 3 that you find under these starting cards. For these, I highly recommend taking the basic card upgrades for characters that are primary damage dealers like Renoa here, or for characters like Magna who rely heavily on their basic shield cards in order to do their job. But for specific supports, for example, like Ray, you might not necessarily need to do this. As you can see, I really heavily invested in this, and I find that as I play the character, I'm not ever really playing her basic attacks. I'm not really playing her basic heal. And as you can see here, it's 12,000 units, which money goes by really, really easily in this game. And I'm basically wasting a ton of money by leveling this up, at least in the early and mid game. Like, nobody has reached level 60 max level yet. So you could save a lot of energy, a lot of gold units here by just making sure that you're picking the right potentials appropriately. So really think before you upgrade this basic card node if it's actually worth it. For me, again, a tank like Magna who needs the basic shields to do her job, or a main DPS like Renoa in order to clear out the first quarter or so of the dungeon when I don't have cards, that's worth it to me. But for supports, no way. I could have used that stamina for other stuff, been way more efficient with my time. The second node here is going to be common card usage. Same deal. Increases damage, shields, and healing of common cards. This is stuff that you get from the Delang shop, or you might get as rewards from various different fights. This is oftentimes, like 90% of the time, I feel like not worth getting. If you really, really enjoy the character, then it might actually be worth it to level this stuff up. But most of the time, not really worth it. Renoa is like one of the few characters I feel like where it's actually worth leveling up the common card upgrade because of the cards like Quick Shelling. It's an amazing card, and you might want to make an entire build around it. In that case, then yes, it's absolutely worth going for the common card potential. But for everyone else, you can basically skip this. Just put 1 node in it, so that way you can unlock the unique card proficiency, and that's it. Now this one right here, this is probably the most important node I feel like on the entire character, and that's because it gives you some kind of unique card bonus, something that will drastically change or enhance the way that you play the character. So for example, Renoa, who's all about dirge bullets, it increases the damage that the dirge bullets deal. For somebody like Magna, it gives counter attacks to her basic cards, which is really, really important because that's kind of her whole gimmick. And then you have characters like Cassius down here, where the basic card proficiency will actually give you draw effects on his basic cards, which will give him the velocity he needs to go through the deck at a rapid pace to complete his quests. So that one is just super, super important. You should always end up taking this one right here. Next, we have the unique card upgrade, which I think is the second most important one in the entire like web here of all of the various different potentials. This increases the damage, shields, and healing amount for your unique cards, which are going to be the remaining 5 cards. It's the top right card here in the card menu, and then the bottom row here. It increases the effectiveness of all of these cards. If you truly enjoy playing the character, you play them all the time, you find that they are integral to your strategy, then it is worth picking up the unique cards, at least the first 6 or 7 levels. After that, it starts to use weekly materials, and you might gate yourself. You know, for example, I'll kind of jump ahead here a little bit. Cassius, right? So not only are there weekly materials, as you can see right here, Eye of Wailing Prodigal, right? For the unique card bonuses, they also appear for these top ones here, the basic card proficiency number 2, as well as the unique stat upgrade. And if you spend them, you know, willy-nilly on characters that you don't necessarily want to play long-term, you might find yourself locked out. For example, there was a difficult boss that I could not beat because I ended up spending all of these shards of condemnation way too early, and therefore I couldn't actually unlock this ability to kind of get the additional fortitude and the additional morale, which would have been a huge boon to me, make me survive longer, deal more damage. And considering I failed the boss by only like 1500 health, this would have come in handy had I allocated my resources a little bit better. Now, before we jump to these 2 passive bonuses here, let's talk about these 2 right here that are right underneath it. These are going to always be proficiency bonuses for various different stats based on what the character is. So for somebody like Cassius, who's a support, health makes a lot of sense because he's not really here to necessarily deal damage. He's here to kind of be like a tanky character, kind of help sustain the team, so that's why the health is here. Attack is nice, but might not necessarily need to invest in this. Again, maybe if he's my favorite character, I'll pick this up in the long term. But when I'm first getting started, right, there's better uses of my time, better uses of my resources. For somebody like Renoa here, who is a main DPS, getting crit chance and crit damage will help smooth over my runs and help her do her role. So it's absolutely worth it for me to pick these things up if this is going to be my main damage dealer for my team. Now, basic card proficiency, it's kind of a toss-up. You have to ask yourself, how often are you actually playing this character? For me, I'm all in on Renoa, so it was worth it. But for a lot of characters, this basic card proficiency bonus is not really worth it. So if you just don't need to use the resources, don't go for it. Again, especially because it uses weekly resources like those condemnation shards, that kind of gated me out of being able to get the Cassius passive that I really needed. And then this last one, the unique stat upgrade, just like with this one down here, I find this one's usually worth it if you are willing to be dedicated to the character and play the character in the endgame. Again, it's weekly bonuses, or I should say weekly lockout materials, so do what you will with it, but that's a basic overview of potentials. Hopefully that makes things clear. My second tip is in regards to a question that I commonly get asked on stream. Many people, when they first hit level 40 account and higher, always ask me what should they be doing at that point. If you've already got the potentials unlocked for the characters you plan to play, at level 40 plus, this is the time to start diving into memory fragments. Memory fragments are just like the equipment or gear system from Epic 7, and they give you a lot of amazing stat bonuses. And while it is certainly dumbed down from Epic 7, it's still a little bit complex and there's a lot of RNG in it. I will absolutely make a full breakdown for the gearing system in this game at a later time, but for right now, to get you started, I just want to give you the basics. You want to be going for these gold memory fragments, which will unlock at 40 plus whenever possible. Until that point, you might have unlocked things like blue memory fragments, which are rare, or the green ones, which are uncommon. These ones are not worth using your units and your resources on because the stat bonuses are minuscule in comparison. To give you an example, in slot number 4 here, critical hit chance as my main stat here, the top one, is going to be 27% fully upgraded. Now, if you come and look at the blue one here, this is a fully upgraded blue one at plus 15%. That is a huge difference in stats. And honestly, if it wasn't for just keeping this to show you, I would have gotten rid of it ages ago because this is absolutely not worth my resources in investing in. Now, the left side stuff here, 1, 2, and 3 slots, don't worry so much about the substats, which are going to be these 4 stats. If you're on a DPS, usually you just want critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Otherwise, go for like health and defense. don't worry too much about leveling up the left side. For right now, when you're first getting started, if you're really struggling, you want to focus on slots 4, 5, and 6, which we call the right side pieces, because this main stat here is the only thing that you can actually control in gear. Everything else is RNG. If you try to taste perfection, you'll be here for like weeks or months or even years on end. So don't worry about it. Just focus on this top stat. I would recommend for the 4 slot for most damage dealers, critical hit chance will give you the biggest boost in overall stats and damage and make your runs that much smoother. For your supports, you're probably going to want health percentage in this slot. Now, in the 5 slot, it's really, really simple. You want damage for whatever type the character is. So if I come to stats here and I look at this here, attribute info, you can see that Renoa is of the void element, so I want void damage on this character. If I'm playing Magna and I want her to deal damage, then she is blue justice. I want her on the justice damage piece here. Calliope, instinct. So I want her on instinct damage. So it's really simple there. Again, if it's support though, you might want to go for something like health percentage. And then as for the 6 slot here, you want to just choose a main stat that is beneficial to whatever character that you are playing. So for a main damage dealer, it's going to be attack percentage, unless it's a character like Magna, where the cards say defense-based damage, in which case you want defense percentage here in this slot. If it's going to be a supporter, like somebody like, say, maybe Ray in this slot, you're going to want either ego recovery because their skills scale off of it, or just health percentage or defense percentage. Health percentage will give you higher HP, make it harder for you to get killed, but defense percentage is actually what shields and healing scales off of in this game. So if you want to have the highest heal potency, the highest shield potency, then it might be worth it for you to choose defense percentage. Again, don't worry too much about the substats. You'll just waste far too many units and far too many stamina if you chase perfection. Just focus on making sure you have good main stats at first, and then eventually try to work in the set bonuses with the correct main stats. And then finally, once you have that and you feel comfortable, start chasing those specific substats that you want. Tip number 3 is a really simple one, but you'd be surprised how many people I talk to that don't do it. And that's have a goal in mind when you jump into a chaos dungeon. Before you hit enter, ask yourself what you're trying to get out of the run. Chaos is a mode where you're most likely trying to build decks, get great save data so that you can use it for other game modes. But sometimes that's not necessary. If you're trying to get from, like, say, tier 5 to tier 6 in Zero System and you're struggling, maybe you don't necessarily need to turn on deep trauma mode, because, you know, that'll make the dungeon harder. Yes, you'll give up some save data value, but if the goal is just to push to the next tier, focus on just trying to get to the boss safely. Take easier fights, take easier paths, use the rest stops more frequently than you normally would. Again, you're just trying to beat the boss. You're just trying to get those first time rewards. If that's not the case though, and you are focusing on save data, you do want to turn on deep trauma if at all possible to get that enhanced save data value, which will allow you to have more powerful cards. You'll have more space for building your deck out. And when it comes to building a deck for a character, I find that far too many people kind of just spread themselves evenly amongst characters in a run. They'll remove one card from each deck. They'll add cards to, say, like Renoa's deck. They'll add some cards to Ray's deck. They'll add some cards to Yuki's deck. If you want to get the best save data possible, I find it is best to hard focus on one character, right? So if you want to get the best Yuki deck at all possible, you want to dedicate everything to this character, right? You want to give her the best possible equipment that you find. Like, you want to make sure you get some of these, like, purple tier equipments for the character. You want to try to give her all of the divine epiphanies, you know, make all of the choices to give yourself the best chance of getting save data specifically for that character. That said, RNG sometimes gets in the way, and despite your best efforts, the game might give you a bunch of divine epiphanies for Ray, or they might give you a bunch of really good common cards that come together to make a great zero cost build for a character like Renoa, for example. If that's the case, don't fight it, lean into it, and work on those characters. There is a lot of RNG in the game, and there's a lot of replayability. Don't just try to brute force it. You should have a goal in mind, which is going to be, again, say maybe build out a Yuki deck. But if the game just starts giving you lemons, you should probably make lemonade. Tip number 4 comes from my time being a coach for various different competitive card games, and that is the importance of sequencing. You may have heard me say this in other videos, but sequencing is just the order with which you play your cards, the intent with which you play your cards. There are a number of fights in this game that punish you for having bad sequencing. For example, there are certain elites that get stronger every time you play a skill or upgrade card. So if you choose not to play skills or upgrades, the damage that they deal is pretty negligible. That said, I still find people playing their various different draw effects and pumping up this monster and then dying to it and wondering, why is that going to be the case? Why did I die to this thing? Well, it's because you get punished for doing a certain thing and you still went ahead with it anyway. There are certain other monsters that are out there that will attack you when you use an AoE attack. Then there are others still that will deal bonus damage to you if you empty your entire hand. So rather than just go through the motions and play cards for whatever reason, actually stop and think about what you can do, what order you can play your cards in order to maximize your value without taking as much damage in return. Tip number 5 is probably obvious, I hope, but to me, it's the most important one, and that is simply just play who you like. Now, as I'm recording this video, the supposed meta for this game involves characters like Calliope, as well as characters like Mika. And as you can see, I have these characters invested in because I am a content creator and I wanted to see what all the hubbub was for these characters in late game content. And I'll be honest with you, I found them very boring, at least to me. So it made me really not want to play the game as much. So what I decided to do was just chase characters and play characters that I thought were really cool. Case in point, Amir. This is a character that most people, as I'm recording this video, think is not particularly very strong. One of the worst characters in the entire game. That said, when I started to mess around and experiment with the character and her kit, I realized that she was a lot of fun and like a tough puzzle to crack. And once I really understood how this character worked, my enjoyment of the game got so much better. And I really found a lot of pride in pushing this character as far as I possibly could. And I've been able to clear basically every piece of content in the entire game with Amir, a character that was considered, bad by most of the community. And since this is a PvE game, there's not really like any competition, like there's an Epic 7 PvP between multiple players. I really think you're doing yourself a disservice by simply saying like, who's the strongest, and then just kind of gravitating towards and playing that character. If you're struggling, yes, maybe it's worth it to look into a strong character like Calliope, but I personally find that you will have more enjoyment and you'll be willing to push yourself past your limits and tackle more difficult content if it's with a character that you actually enjoy. And that's going to do it for the video. If you still have any questions on anything related to Chaos Zero Nightmare, please let me know down in the comment section below. And if you already knew all these things in the video, feel free to check the comments down below as well and help out your fellow players. I'm all about fostering a community of people that are striving towards a specific goal and having fun while doing so. So you being able to help out somebody really means a lot to me. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.